Prime Minister Mark Carney is wrapping up his time at the G20 summit here in Johannesburg. It was an exceptional summit because of the US boycott, with 19 of the 20 showing up. There had been concerns that South Africa wouldn't be able to find consensus and a joint declaration.
We can't then bend the rules just for one country.
But they were actually able to get some sort of consensus among the countries that attended. Here's the front page of today's newspaper, Bloody Nose for Trump. There's a sense of triumph here, both for multilateralism and for South Africa, for being able to get across a document that touched on gender equality, on climate change, on numerous issues that US President Donald Trump has pushed back on. For Mark Carney, the visit gave a lot of opportunity to be talking with different countries about investments, about trade. We have this new talks with India to get a trade agreement that we've been trying to get since 2010. We have talks with South Africa to have an agriculture and minerals focused partnership going. Prime Minister Mark Carney, in his closing remarks, said that he was thinking back to Nelson Mandela, the famous apartheid protester who became the first president of South Africa. Mandela had talked about the need to work together to advance society, and Carney said that's the sort of message that he's leaning on when he's thinking about working together in a world that's increasingly fractured.
The ties between Canada and South Africa are deep. For many Canadians, these bonds were exemplified by Nelson Mandela's two addresses to our Parliament.
We saw the US withdrawal manifest in a few different ways. There was a proposed deal for Ukraine that many thought had favored Russia, and the Europeans were fearing that with all of these conditions, Russia would be emboldened to do more invasions across Europe. There was a sense of coming together with Canada, its European peers, and Japan here at this summit to push back on what the Trump administration had proposed. We also saw Mark Carney had a meeting with the European Union and the leader of a Pacific Rim trade bloc, which is Vietnam next year. And he was talking about ways to get these free trade groups to work together more. This would be the Pacific Rim countries such as Australia, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, but also Peru, Canada, and sort of get them to work with the European Union, which is a way to advance rules-based trade. That could help smaller countries deal with trade coercion, whether that's American tariffs or Chinese barriers to certain exports that are made for political reasons. Another big focus for South Africa has been gender-based violence. There were nationwide protests in the recent days where women were laying on the ground talking about the need for femicide to be recognized, and the South African government actually said that this is a national disaster for South Africa. We saw in the communique language around gender-based violence and the need to better protect women across the world. Prime Minister Mark Carney said Canada still has work to do on gender-based violence.
The work on female equality was one of the priorities of the South African presidency. I recognize the challenges that exist in this country, and still the more work that we need to do in Canada.
But he also said that he wouldn't describe his government as having a feminist foreign policy, and that's a stark change to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, his predecessor.